Nick Marsh is a physically dominant wide receiver prospect who is due for a major breakout season ahead of the 2027 NFL Draft.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I'm Damian Parson. That is Keith Sanchez. And on today's episode, we're breaking down former Michigan State Spartan wide receiver, current Indiana Hoosier, Nick Marsh. We're going to break down this game, explain our grades for him, even talk about if we have any comps and pro-style comps for you for the NFL, give you the concerns when it comes down to his game heading into the 2026 college football season. But let's kick it off as we always do with the pros, with the good, Keith. Guy is listed at 6'3", 205 pounds. So we talked about Charlie Becker last week. Charlie Becker's 6'4", he's 6'3". Josh Hoover got some big boys to throw the football to. You're talking about on the outside, but for the numbers last year at Michigan State, Nick Marsh caught 59 receptions for 662 receiving yards and 6 total touchdowns. Keith, where what stood out to you rather when it comes down to watching the 6'3", 205-pound wide receiver that now is in Indiana?
To me, DP, the number one thing has to be run after the catch. And listen, this is a unorthodox way of run after the catch, right? Because usually when you think of run after the catch, you think of elusive guys, you think of smaller, quick guys. This guy powers through people. And he's tough to bring down. You can say he's a running back with the football in his hands. Just a difficult tackle. And I forgot what play. Was it against Wake Forest maybe? And it might have been a quick slant. And he caught the pass, quick slant. And then he just bowled forward for 10, 15 yards, right? Just kind of bouncing off of defenders, getting slung around, refusing to go down. He has a never say die attitude with the football in his hands. And that's rare for a wide receiver. Like I say, I have to go with run after the catch because I think of so many different ways that you can use him, just throughout different offenses or just throughout the offense period. And you think about this Indiana offense and the RPO stuff and being able to get the ball out your hands quickly and what Josh Hoover actually does good at. This should work, right? Like now you put all the pieces together and you have the vision. This should work because this guy, Nick Marsh, man, I was impressed with him watching him. I was thoroughly impressed with him.
Yeah, I mean, 6'3", 205, and like you said, that physicality after the catch, one of the first things that I wrote down, I was like, no, this dude does not like to be tackled. He wants to hit you just as much as you want to hit him, probably
He's
more
angry.
so. Yeah, he's a very angry football player with the football in his hands. But then I really like the ability just after the catch in general because he's showcased some lateral moves, you know what I mean, for 6'3", 205. I'm like, okay, he can actually give you a 1-2 step and break you down and get around you, but then also he's got a really strong stiff arm. And then when all else fails, I'm gonna lower my shoulder and I'm gonna just run straight through you, right? Run through the tackles and get the yards after the catch. I really appreciated that watching him, Keith. I feel like he has good ball skills and tracking ability down the field. Michigan State's offense just wasn't what everyone hoped it to be with Aiden Childs and the play calling and everything like that. So it was I think he if I remember correctly, let me look at his numbers from the previous year. So he had 649 as a freshman, as a true freshman. He averaged almost 16 yards per catch for 3 touchdowns. His yards per catch came down, but he had more touchdowns this year. He had 662. So he did, like, his numbers did increase to an extent, but like not to the leap that I think most people who watch this young man, like he's got some really good talent and everything. I will say, Keith, I think that the spatial awareness after the catch is something I really like. Remember how it translated to the league too. When you remember QJ, Quentin Johnston, he run those hitch routes and he knew where the DB was. You know what I'm saying? As he's catching the ball, he knew which direction to spin off, right? And everything like that. And I think, I was talking to somebody about it when he was coming as a prospect. He was like, he's got that dream shake, the dream shake after the catch, where he's like, he catches those little quick hitches or curl routes and he spins off like he's in the post on the hardwood, and he's able to then get upfield. And I see that same thing with Nick Marsh. He has really good spatial awareness of where is the cornerback who's covering me, right? If this guy's playing off coverage, I ran the 5-yard hitch. He knows where the guy is before he's able to start and engaging, after the catch. And then also, Keith, he ran. I can't remember which game. Maryland. It was against Maryland. They motioned him pre-snap. They motioned him, then returned him, sent him back, and he ran a pivot route in the middle. Like, you know what I mean? The reverse, for those who don't know what the pivot route is the reverse of the whip route. The whip route takes you outside. The pivot route takes you back inside. So he runs the pivot route. And when I saw him sink his hips and drive, I was like, 6'3", 200 plus pounds, shouldn't be dropping his weight that quickly. Like, you know what I mean? And like the defender got, he beat the defender with ease. I think he caught it. And then I think he ran him in for a touchdown, powered his way for a score. This is a talented big body wide receiver, Keith. A big, talented big body. I got a comp that I know you'll like at the end of the show. I got a comp one of your guys from a recent draft that I think you'll like.
All right, that'll be interesting. I can't wait to hear that. Yeah, DP, and to your point with the slants, and then you talked about like the hitches and curls. I agree with you, and he's going to force defenses to have a tackling corner, right? And for those who've been listening to the show for the few years that we've been doing it, you know that tackling as a corner doesn't rank high on my board, right? I'd rather you be able to cover, right? But I will say this, if you put him at the XY receiver position and he's on the backside of the defense, right, and it's just him in the corner, yeah, you better have a good corner back there, right? Because and like you said, I don't know, I can't remember what game it was, but it was two defenders when it was like a hitch and a curl. He caught the hitch, caught the curl, shook both of them, and took it 50 yards up the sideline. And I don't think it's something that's just a college thing. I think that's a translatable skill, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
What he has, and there's enough speed and acceleration also, because that was one thing that I had a question mark about. I'm like, okay, how fast is he, right? Like, is he a blazer? Is he good speed? Then we talked about Cam Coleman, right? Like where we believe his speed may be. I think this is a 4.4 flat guy. I think he has the speed there to be able to do some things, and you can see it in the open field when he can really get up and go. I think at Michigan State, maybe he wasn't utilized as much in that way, right? And that might be the quarterback conversation, but is there an element for him to be able to be the deep threat? And I think there is some of that to him, that he at least he can stretch the field offensively as a wide receiver.
No, 100%. I mean, and I think to your point about the QB situation, like I think because him going to I would love to see him out there with Fernando, because Fernando was like the back shoulder fade king. Like with his size and ability, not like him and Aiden connected on a few of them, but I feel like that's a part of his game that hasn't been fully unlocked yet, is that back shoulder fade where, hey, even if that guy is hip to hip, can you uncover, right? And I think that's a big thing for me, because he does track the ball well and everything. He sees it well, and then he has good body control and balance as a pass catcher as well. So hopefully him and Josh Hoover can really get that go. I mean, what was the story that Elijah Surratt said that early in camp last year in the summer, freaking Mendoza looked at some Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams clips and sent them right to Elijah Surratt. Say, hey, we can do this. Like, we can connect on these type of throws, which was that was one of their money plays all season.
Yep. I agree. DP, let's do this, man. We talked about the pros of Nick Marsh, the Michigan State wide receiver that transferred to Indiana to the national champs. That still sounds crazy. But I'm embracing it, DP. I'm slowly getting over it. We almost to a new college football season now.
Yes,
but
sir.
Let's do this, man. We talked about the pros of Nick Marsh. Let's talk about the concerns, right? Which part of his game he needs to elevate, which parts he needs to improve on this offseason to stay as one of the top wide receivers in the 2027 NFL draft. In the NFL draft. Let's discuss that coming up next.
Workplace chaos can show up fast. That's where Indeed Sponsored Jobs comes in. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach candidates who actually fit what you're looking for based on skills, experience, and location. Finding the right person can make all the difference, whether it's building a business or building a winning team. One great addition can have a ripple effect on everyone around them. When you find someone who brings the right skills, attitude, and experience, it makes the entire group better. That's why finding qualified candidates matters so much, and why tools like Indeed Sponsored Jobs can help make that process easier. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? Well, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Again, you need to hire? Well, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Before we break down the concerns for Nick Marsh, new transfer wide receiver for Indiana, get your daily Locked On NFL draft fix completely ad-free by joining the Everyday Club today. Start your 7-day free trial right now and get closer to your team without the interruptions. Click the link in the show notes or go to lockedonnfldraft.supercast.com to claim your free trial. Keith, Nick Marsh, concerns for him when you watched him against 6'3". We gave him a lot of praise to open up the show. What were some of the things that concerned you that you wanted to see him get better at or might limit him going into the NFL?
Yeah, I think I wish I would have seen more reps of him being dominant at the catch point. And we kind of got into it last segment, right? But those 50-50 balls and it just being able to go up and come down with them. And I didn't know if it was a lack of opportunities or in a combination of his mindset, which doesn't pair up when you think about his aggressive nature when he has the football in his hands, right? So I need to be able to flush that part out. And that's something that you talk about a concern. I think that's a good way to put it, because I'm not saying that he can't do it, but it's a concern and something that I need to see done at Indiana, right? I need to see him have those opportunities and then go ahead and capitalize on them, because if he does that, DP, and he goes and he thrives in a 50-50 situation at being 6'3", 200 plus pounds, now you're talking about a true dominant X wide receiver, right? Like I think this young man has a really high ceiling as a wide receiver. But if I can't throw you the 50-50 balls and you discuss the back shoulders or just expect you to go up and over somebody, then now that places you in a situation, DP, to where I don't have to say a gadget situation, because it's not gadgety, but it removes a very important element of an X wide receiver. Now, do you push yourself to wide receiver 2, a Z in the offense, things like that? So that was a main part that I wanted to see, was his ability to go up and over defenders consistently next year.
Yeah, because I don't think it's like you said, it's not something that a concern of like, hey, he can't do it. It's just we don't see enough of it. You know what I mean? And I don't think he has he does not like a bad athlete. It's just I don't think he fully uses his frame, like the catch radius.
And him being so physical, like those things usually don't translate, right? Like if he was a soft runner with the football, and then you was like, okay, he don't want to go up, then those things correlate, right? But it doesn't correlate that you a physically dominant wide receiver, and then you turn around and you're like, I don't want to go up for the ball. That part doesn't, it just doesn't correlate. Like the mental part usually doesn't translate in that manner.
No, 100%. I definitely saw the same thing. I want to see him just again extend, like it's kind of the inverse or the reverse with Charlie Becker. He used that full 6'4" frame. Like you throw the ball anywhere near him, he goes up, fully extends. He's like, I give you every single centimeter of my frame. I'm 6'4". I'm using the whole frame. I'm using the whole 6'4", and I'm using my long arms to go get the ball. I want to see Nick Marsh do that exact same thing, because like you said, it's rare to see a guy be that dominant with the ball in his hands and that physical and that angry, and not take pride in being able to body guys at the catch point and go over the top of defenders. So I definitely think it's something that he can do. We just need to see it kind of be unlocked, and maybe honestly, Keith, it could be also a coaching thing too. Like just being taught, like being told, hey, use your full frame. Like don't wait on the ball, go up and get it, things of that nature. Just sometimes it's just emphasis on details, as you know, just emphasis on small details. I think for me, Keith, let's kind of a couple things. So he's got some concentration drops on tape that I saw. I was like, okay. Got to reel that in, big fella. Like, and I think it's the reason why I call him concentration drops, Keith, because to me, watching him, he's one of those guys that immediately goes from receiver to runner, right? And that's what we talked about in the opening of the show, with that physicality. Like you got to be real quick in your transitions to be able to go from receiver to runner and take advantage of defenders who aren't set and ready for you, like linebackers, safeties, whoever. Like these guys aren't ready for 6'3", 200 plus pounds downhill, right, with the football in their hands. If you catch them out of position, like that's a good spot to be in as a receiver. I want to see him I feel like he's trying to start running sometimes before he secures the ball. So I want to see him secure the ball. Don't get me wrong. Some throws, it's like on the back, like you're running the slant. You never want to slant on that back shoulder, right? Like you got to turn your body and like you don't want that. But of course, everybody's gonna say if it hits your hands, it's a drop, right? That's the old coaching adage. So I just want to see him clean up some of those concentration drops, secure the ball before he becomes a runner. You talked about his speed, kid. I think he's similar to Cam Coleman in terms of I didn't the burst off the line. I felt like I feel like top speed. Yeah, he pulls away from guys similar to Cam, but it's like that. I want to get a better gauge of his acceleration off the line because I feel like there's times where guys are able to stick with them. But then you see him able to pull away if he, vertically, if the ball is thrown in his direction. But that early part of the rate, that early part of the phase, guys can stick with him in the foot race.
Yeah, it's weird, and that's why in the last segment I was like, I think he's this because I wasn't 100% sure because I seen some of the same things. What caught me,
it comes and goes, feels like.
And what catches me off balance is I think in his releases. He has suddenness in his releases, so I'm like, okay, I think you have quick initial speed, right? Like he has quick feet in his releases. So I took that, and then I agree with you. I think that if we had to break down, analyze what his 40 or dash should look like, I think 0 to 10 will be good. Yeah, I think that 10 to 25 will probably be the worst part of his 40, and then when he really opens up,
the flying 30,
30 to 40. It'll finish strong. So I agree with you with that it appears that it comes and goes sometimes, and you can understand just being I guess having questions about it because it's weird to watch. Like and it was sometimes hard to get a gauge. Just looking at talking about more concerns. I agree with you, right? The feeding the press coverage part, DP, is another thing that he has to improve on. You've seen some defenders. Was it a Michigan game? I can't remember.
I think it was Michigan. I was watching the game too.
Yeah, and they got into him pretty well, and I think that part impacted the rest of his route, DP, because that might have been the one game where he had a couple deep shots. But also this is the part too that Michigan elevates in talent level, right? Too, right? Like that they are going to have NFL potential, round one, round two cornerbacks over there. And that part you've seen that the step up and play impacted that. So I think that's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting for him being at Indiana, and we'll pull up Indiana's schedule for next segment and say, okay, cool, who are we potentially going against that are going to be resume games for you moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Because watching that, because he matched up a decent amount with their number one corner, Jair Hill over at Michigan. I think he's listed at like 6'1", maybe 6'2". I think he's a taller corner. I'm gonna pull it up just to verify. But like watching the two, I didn't feel like he had the size advantage from a height standpoint. Jair is listed, 6'2". He's a 6'2" senior for Michigan. He's listed at 6'2", 190 pounds. Body, like I guess, like the mass standpoint, I felt like he had like Nick Marsh had the advantage, but the height wise, they're almost identical in height. And you saw, like you said, in that game, that was a game that, like, the moment I was watching through the refs, I'm like, man, these dudes are being super physical with him. Like they're getting in the contact window, they're rerouting him, they're getting hands on, and he's having a hard time getting free. And I think, what was it? We talked about it because again, this Nick Marsh, Charlie Becker, Cam Coleman, Jeremiah Smith. Keith, there's a trend here. All those guys are at least 6'2", 6'3". Like, you know what I mean? 6'3" all the way up to 6'4". Heck, I talked about KJ Duff last week. He's 6'5", 6'6". You know what I mean? Ian Strong transferred to California from Rutgers. He's 6'5". Like, this is a big wide receiver class if everybody does declare like we're discussing. But I want to just see him kind of maybe embrace, because he does have a quick release. Like, he does have the quick footwork, the lateral footwork. He does a good job with the foot fire and hard jab steps, and he's really good with the head fakes too, even as a route runner. But sometimes it's like, you know what? Just embrace your physical. Embrace the fact you're 200+ pounds, right? Guy want to get physical with you? Watch some Jamar Chase and watch how Jamar Chase gets free from guys like that. He invites it, right? Julio Jones invited it. Andre Johnson invited it. AJ Brown invites it. Like, yeah, go ahead and press me. Because once I clear you, I'm free. Like, I'm open, and my quarterbacks will get me the ball. I want to see Nick Marsh this year really work on that part of his game and get better in the contact window against those physical corners, because the Big Ten usually have a lot of good corners dealing with Michigan, Ohio State, Iowa typically has good DBs as well. It won't be a cakewalk over there. I mean, well, he was in, granted, he was at Michigan State last year, so he knows the Big Ten. But the point is, now you in the big spotlight, knowing that, hey, if you get jammed up in these big games, that could really hurt your offense.
Yep, I agree. DP, let's do this, man. Let's drop the draft grade, right? What grade do we have on wide receiver for Indiana, Nick Marsh, heading into the 2026 college football season? We'll discuss that coming up next.
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you. Nick Marsh, Keith, the transfer wide receiver to Indiana. We've talked about the good. We talked about the bad and the concerns. What grade do you give him right now for summer scouting heading into the 2026 college football season?
Yeah, I give him a round 1 grade, and I put him in the Pro Bowl caliber, meaning that this guy can – the expectation is that when you look at everything, he can be a wide receiver to make multiple Pro Bowls. I think what we discussed in the first segment, I agree, right? And you think of wide receivers, I think and it's going to sound, this is going to sound crazy coming up, but I think of like a Puka Nacua, right? And that's at the very worst from the perspective of Puka wasn't a 4-3 blazer, right? But he was tough after the catch. And if he gets that contested catch part down, then you're talking about another one of those big bodied wide receivers that can move and take care of business. Also, I think of Chris Godwin for the Tampa Bay Bucks and the way Chris operated in the slot, right? They moved him around in different situations, but just being a high IQ. And I think that Chris was a tough tackle too. And I think they're very similar in size as far as, just overall stature and everything, that I think that it can operate like that. So I think that there are different levels. And obviously, you could throw out the high-end names, but I wanted to try to find like a sweet spot for him of, listen, these guys may not ultra productive wide receivers because of what they do with the football in their hands and then using their IQ.
Yeah, no, I'm with that, kid. I like the name pulls there. For me, I give him a grade. I have top of the second round, late first, early second. And I want to get the speed and acceleration stuff. I want to see him get better with the drops and clean those things up. And of course, as we talked about, being rerouted, hard press, physical, bump and run, jam technique, have a counter for that, right? Just counter it. But I think, he was a young player, true sophomore last year, going into his true junior season. I think that there's definitely, I expect him to get better in that regard, Keith. And just truthfully, with a coach like Cignetti and that coaching staff, and coming off the 2 years, successful 2 years, I think he's only lost 2 games as a coach in 2 seasons, and that was back in 2024 with Curtis Rourke, right? The regular season, I think he lost 1 game in the regular season, then the Notre Dame in the playoffs, and then he went undefeated all last season. So I think Nick Marsh is due potentially for a breakout season, Keith. I would not be shocked. I honestly wouldn't be shocked if he steps into that Elijah Surratt role as the possession guy in this offense. Because it's different. Like you talk about with Becker. Becker lives in the intermediate deep waters of the defense and of the field. And we kind of called out like, hey, we want to see him improve as a route runner. I feel like with Nick Marsh, he thrives more as a route runner in the short area, in the quick game, the slants and different things like that, and the releases to be able to get free on those quick routes. So I think he could be in for a big time season, a breakout season. The comp I had for him, Keith, was Denzel Boston. I think Denzel came out. I think Denzel was 6'4", so it might be a little bit taller. 6'4", maybe. Yeah, a little bit bigger in terms of like 210, 215, somewhere in there, 220. But like, just as soon as I saw that pivot route, Keith, I was like, man, that reminded me of Denzel from this draft cycle, where it was like that big body receiver sinking and driving, losing the DB, and it was like, you shouldn't be able to do that, right? Now the difference, of course, between the two where Denzel didn't have the drop issues. Like, he was just such a elite hand catcher with big hands. Like, he wanted to dominate the catch point, and he did, right? Like, that was a guy that was like, hey, and I expect him to do that in the NFL too, Keith. Like, I expect him to, once we get to training camp, in a couple weeks and stuff like that, I would say probably another month, right? Like the end of July, when training camp the NFL has that whole training camp special on NFL Network and everything. Like, we're finally back and all that, getting prepped for the the Hall of Fame game in preseason. I'm excited to see Denzel Boston in that regard. I think that will translate once the pads come on too. And I want to see, that's the part for me is like, hey, Nick Marsh, man, if you add this to your bag, you're going to be very difficult to cover because that, again, faith builder, confidence builder, you give the quarterback the faith to throw the ball up to you, even with the corners right there side by side with you. So I'm looking forward to seeing him this year. Like I said, early second round grade, late first, got the size. If he comes in anywhere under 4.5, he comes in 4.45, 4.47 with 6'3", and he jumps 38, 40 inches in the vert, strong, broad, clean up those drops, Keith, he's probably going to be a first-round pick. Like there's going to be a chance we might get 5 or 6 first-round wide receivers this year.
Easy. Yeah, I agree with that too. And 5 or 6, and this is early on.
That might be the low end.
Yeah, and we know how scouting operates now with the transfer portal, right? There's going to be guys that blossom and blow up throughout the season, right? That we're going to have to go and evaluate. One, I like the Denzel Boston comp because I like Denzel Boston, right? You know, I said, don't be surprised this guy is better than Rome Odunze, and now we know he went around later. I'm gonna look at this DP, and I wanted to ask you, what separates Nick Marsh and Cam Coleman for you? Like, what are you leaning more into? Because obviously they're very similar profiles and they're both physical wide receivers, right? But I want to ask you what separates Cam Coleman for you.
Man, I think it is. I'll probably say the contested catches, like that the catch point, the aggression at the catch point. Like, and again, we talked about, like, you know, we know that Nick Marsh is a physical, aggressive, angry player with the football in his hands. Cam Coleman attacks the ball with that same mentality. I mean, and Cam Coleman's good after the catch too. I think Cam might be a little more, not finesse is the right word, but he might try to use a little more elusiveness from time to time than Nick Marsh. Nick Marsh will more than likely just try to run through you or stiff arm you, stuff like that. But Cam Coleman attacks the ball and uses that 6'3" frame that he has, similar to Charlie Becker. And even with the Jeremiah Smith, they attack the ball with aggression. And I want to see Nick Marsh do that because, again, like he's already has a high second round, first round grade, even, you know, for me, and then you got first round grade for you. And it's like, man, if you start attacking that, like, you could put yourself in a really, really good situation overall. So that's why I'm looking. That's why I think that the main similarities, differences or split is for me, Keith, is one super aggressive at the catch point. The other one, we're waiting to see him develop that type of aggression and mentality.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be interesting to pay attention to that as it unfolds for him. You know, and just those different elements, because like you say, he could be a guy that's for you sitting out, you know, in the top of the second round and move himself into a top 12, right? Like, because you can see the ceiling of where that could be potentially. So it'll definitely be something fun to pay attention to. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at the Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to see, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Thanks for tuning into the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. On tomorrow's show, we're breaking down arguably RB1. Oh, he's in that battle for RB1. Ole Miss's Keywan Lacey. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On NFL Draft so you can get all the latest episodes. If you never miss an episode, the Everyday Club is built for you. Get Locked On NFL Draft ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to LockedOnNFLDraft.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send to you the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. And guys, as always, come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.